debated truths often denied. Scrutiny sharp as the southern winds bite. In our Aotearoa's halls we spark the fight. Scrutiny, read the stakes are high. Questions that sort of pierce the sky. Democracy's fire never runs dry. In Aotearoa we ask the why. The echoes of history paint these walls, where whispers of change answer the calls. Aotearoa beats bold and strong. We challenge the wrongs to make it belong. They say it's a game, but we see the cost. Every decision, a line that's crossed. From the mountains high to the ocean blue, the people watch the power accrue. Scrutiny, read the stakes are high. Questions that sort of pierce the sky. Democracy's fire never runs dry. In Aotearoa we ask the why. The echoes of history paint these walls, where whispers of change answer the calls. Aotearoa, we ask the why. The echoes of history paint these walls, where whispers of change answer the calls. The Aotearoa, we ask the why. We ask the why. Debate like a
And welcome back to our Scrutiny Week special. And as things keep happening, Brooke is missing! So, there's a lot of things there, and I do like the fact that we've got, what do you call it? We're joined tonight by Big Hairy Road Cone coming from Ekatuna, and we've got Detective Road Cone coming from Tamaki Makaurau.
We did not coordinate this.
No.
Well, that's...
You want to know the
What a
funny
start.
thing? When I went to go grab this road cone from down the road, the police saw me do it. It's like, oh, I'm just going to borrow this road cone for 2 hours. You mind? Just drove straight past it, you know? So,
Try and tell Steve where to pick it up from when he to pick up the road cone later on.
yeah. There's so many road cones on State Highway 2. So I'll just borrow this one. 2 hours.
Oh, he doesn't work for that company. No, he'll be the one doing the road doing your local roads.
Yeah.
So we will sit there and go on here. So today, so as you can see here, Brooke Van Velden, as you can, as you can see there, was scheduled to appear at the Select Committee at 9 o'clock today. Now, if we go over to the Education Workforce Select Committee, there are no Select Committee hearings for today for the Select Committee. So I don't know what's happened with it. Has Brooke just gone missing? I mean, put it this way, she's usually missing in action. And also, if we sit there and go to the Parliament website, I mean, they've had stuff sitting in here today for the Select Committee as well. So I can't figure out how the hell has Brooke just completely disappeared. How has this meeting completely disappeared from the face of the earth?
I'm getting
road cone's kidnapped her.
flashbacks. I'm getting flashbacks to when Melissa Lee disappeared for like a week. No one could find her either.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, she's not. Not scheduled to turn up to a Select Committee meeting. On Scrutiny Week.
Maybe Luxon got mad that she was spreading rumors.
Oh, who knows? But it
Got
does
rid of
seem a bit weird. But I mean, yeah. So I I'm seeing if we can find out. So I have just texted Paul Barlow to see if he can ask, was it committee member Shannon Halbert, whether it went ahead or not. So I don't know how quick that will be, but we'll sit there and do it. It's a shame Greg O'Connor's not on that select committee, because otherwise I'll text him. But I mean, to be honest, he probably wouldn't know.
Why do you have everyone's number?
Greg used to be my local MP.
Oh, well.
Yeah. I
That's why you have his
also have Paul Eagle's number when he was my local MP when I was living in the last time I was living in Rongotai Electra. I've got like half the Wellington City councillors' phone numbers. I've got phone numbers for different councillors all the way up both State Highway 1 and State Highway 2.
I've never had the number of any of my local MPs, not once.
Oh, maybe you haven't earned it.
Yeah, you're too charming, Sam.
Oh, well, I mean, put it this way. I'm trying to think. The number of years I've been dealing with Greg, that's coming up like 9 years now. God, it's scary. Yes, I remember making him his first coffee at the Johnsonville Market back in February 2017.
Did he ever arrest you for making a bad coffee? Like once?
No, because at the point where I knew him, he was no longer a cop.
I hope he doesn't come to my house and arrest me for borrowing this road cone.
No,
Don't tell him that I did it.
Yes, but Greg's retired now as a cop.
Yeah, but there's citizens arrest laws. They're coming
Yeah,
in.
true.
Oh, God. I doubt Greg would sit there and do that. He's not that petty. Yeah. So, on the other hand, there is a minister who actually did turn up to work today. Simeon Brown.
Libertarianism is when I borrow road cones from the local council.
Yeah.
It's your right.
It's my right.
Yeah, so let's see how Sam Uffendale sits there and cheers. Because select committee, he's not really good at doing the job. He's not chair material, but hey, you know what it goes.
No, he's bed leg material.
Yeah. So let's kick it off and let's see how Simeon Brown copes in front of the Health Select Committee.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Minister, and all your team for being media. We have you in here for 60 minutes. The majority of questions will be going to opposition members. If officials are invited to speak, I ask that you please keep your remarks concise. No need to paraphrase what the Minister has already said. I don't want too much rambling on. We'll try and keep it focused and concise and to the point on what the question is and address it. I'd like to give all members a chance. So please also indicate and come through me when you have questions. That way we can keep it orderly. You may feel that may break it up a little bit in what you're trying to achieve, but it's trying to keep it orderly as well. That's enough from me. Minister, I'll hand over to you for opening remarks and open to questions.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Usher.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, the Scrutiny Week hearing has been shortened from the 90-minute hearing the committee had with the Minister of Health last year. I've received a letter from the Speaker about this, in which he says my expectation is that ministers will make themselves unreservedly available during Scrutiny Weeks to appear before committees. The changes to standing orders to improve financial scrutiny have been an important change, and a change agreed to by all members in the standing orders. So I move that we have a 90-minute hearing with the Minister.
Well, we have already agreed on a 60-minute meeting with the Minister.
I move that we have a 90-minute hearing.
Yeah, she moved for
Yeah, we
that.
absolutely support that. We require more time, and 60 minutes is not sufficient.
Members are welcome to speak to that. Dr. Campbell.
We have previously addressed this and actually voted on it at a previous meeting. So we could go through those minutes to show that.
Cameron Luxton.
Yeah, we've also, I was about to reiterate what the co-chair has said, and also, we've had time to prepare for this meeting on 60 minutes being the basis, as the committee has previously voted on. Then we should continue with that.
Mr. Chair, can I propose that that you take really good timings to ensure that the opposition feel that they are able to interrogate their questions in a manner that they feel satisfied if we do it within the 60
and
minutes.
that was why I had indicated previously as well, that I would be very clear. And I also said that from the outset. The motion is that the meeting be extended from
I move we have a 90-minute hearing.
90-minute hearing. The motion is that we have a 90-minute hearing. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
The motion was not carried.
Point of order, Mr. Chair.
Point of order, Usher.
It's clear that the government members want a shorter time with the Minister in order to reduce our scrutiny time. And I move that the full 1 hour of this hearing be for questions solely from the opposition, so that the requirements of Speaker's Ruling 141/1 can be met.
That motion is moved. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no.
No.
Motion is not carried. Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Chair,
Shocking.
and thank you for the opportunity to appear before the committee Today, to outline how Budget 2025 continues to deliver on our government's commitment to putting patients first, ensuring that all New Zealanders have access to timely, quality healthcare. I'm here with the Director General of Health, Audrey Sonnison, and the Interim CEO of Health New Zealand, Dr. Dale Bramley. And we have other officials here as well present to answer questions. Budget 2025 continues our commitment to invest in healthcare with a record $7 billion increase in vote health operating funding over the forecast period. This includes an annual boost of $1.37 billion to Health New Zealand's baseline, bringing total health spending in 25-26 to $32.7 billion. This investment is not just large in scale, it is focused and deliberate, targeting the outcomes that matter most to patients. It supports our clear health targets, including shorter wait times for special assessments and elective treatments, shorter stays in emergency departments, faster cancer treatment, and improving childhood immunisation rates. Since becoming Minister in January, we're proud to see early results that put patients first. The last quarter alone, more than 48,000 elective procedures and 167,000 first specialist assessments were completed. It's thousands of New Zealanders getting healthcare that they need. Waitlists for elective procedures have also started to drop, meaning fewer people are waiting for care and more patients are being seen. This marks a meaningful step towards a patient-focused health system. There is more work to do, which is why we are delivering the elective boost, which between February and May has delivered over 9,500 additional elective procedures, with the majority being for patients who've been waiting longer than 4 months. Progress has also been made on first special assessments, with 102% of planned volumes being delivered in the year to March 2025. We're also seeing encouraging signs across our other health targets, which were removed under the previous government. People are spending less time in emergency departments, childhood immunisation rates are improving, and cancer patients are receiving their first treatments more quickly. That means more New Zealanders getting the care they need when they need it, which is key to putting patients first. Budget 2025 builds on this progress, with a significant uplift in funding for Health New Zealand to fund more planned key treatments such as knee, hip, cataract operations, additional cancer treatments, inpatient admissions, and more investment into primary care as well, to take pressure off hospitals and ensure people can get the care they need closer to home. Budget 2025 also invests in our future. Over $1 billion in capital funding will go towards upgrading hospitals and facilities so that they're fit for purpose, safe, modern, and are able to meet the health needs of a growing and ageing population. We're also strengthening our GP clinics and health workforce with targeted initiatives, including 100 clinical placements for overseas trained doctors, recruitment incentives for up to 400 graduate nurses annually for 5 years, 100 additional doctor training places at our medical schools over the course of this government, 120 training places for nurse practitioners and GP clinics, and a $285 million funding boost for GP clinics over the next 3 years. We know that a strong primary care system is essential to getting our health back on track, and this budget makes it clear that we're committed to that goal. But we're under no illusions, there is a lot more work to do, and we're focused on addressing it.
Thank you, Minister. Point of order, Dr. Vera.
Okay, so before we hear the point of orders, that debacle at the start.
I mean, how else was it going to go?
Yeah, I mean, what did we expect? They like rushing through things, including select committee processes. 90 minutes too long, too much grilling, too many burns. They don't have the budget to, I don't know, pay for all of Simeon Brown's burns after he gets grilled by everyone.
Oh yeah, no, the healthcare it couldn't help. It couldn't handle that. You know,
No.
it's just.
Oh no! I mean, put it this way: he could start getting frequent flyer miles at hospital, minimal hospital, depending where these burns happen at.
Yeah, look, the last thing we want during scrutiny week is more scrutiny. Okay, just it's not the point.
It's just amazing how it was like trying to shut down the scrutiny on it. Like that's just the part that really gets me. It's just like, you know, let's sit there and try and hide the scrutiny.
I mean, keep in mind, Sam, that health advocates like doctors and stuff like that have advocated for a budget boost of $2 billion per annum just to keep the lights on, right? National's only put forward $1.37 billion. So if Simeon Brown gets too burnt, they can't afford to pay for his care. They can't do it. It's the same with all the ACC cuts too. They can't afford for him to take time off, so they have to reduce it down to 60 minutes.
I floated this today in Kiwi Pulse's chat, but I was just wondering myself. I was like, is the implementation and necessity of Scrutiny Week itself just a sort of self-admission that Parliament, the whole checks and balances there are just completely broken? Because isn't that the point of like the opposition and question time in general, is to completely just scrutinize the government?
Oh,
So-
who knows? I mean, that's the weird thing. In theory, yes, Scrutiny Week is meant to be about this. This is something that was pushed through by National from the last Parliament, and they're just making absolute mockery of things. I think the Scrutiny Week thing may have actually originated from the Antolly-Trevor Mallard speakership duo days, because there were changes that were made to Committee of the House that was in the lead up to it, and Antolly raved about how positive it was in a valedictory speech. One of the best moves she ever had was the Committee of the House having the questions and answers. And I wonder if that's possibly something that could be in that particular aspect. Was this a step to bring more of that in? And possibly that could have been after COVID. But obviously this current government doesn't seem to sit there and see Scrutiny Week as like, oh God, it's a farce we have to sit there and put on the map.
Yeah, basically every response is just either complete preachy monologue going off on some tangent, or it's just...
I mean, David Seymour did that yesterday. Like, he literally was so condescending to the opposition. It was just like, what the hell?
Barb was on fire today, especially with a lot of her little quips.
Yeah. Oh, might have to go look at Barb and Nicola.
No, she was doing some good shit.
Yeah. So, should we see what start off with the point of order and then the first questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
We're well past the 3 minutes for the minister's remarks.
Yeah, not too far over. Okay. You'd see it was wrapping up. I assume you'll have a question
Yes,
as well,
I do.
Dr. Bill,
Thank
so
you.
I'll
Thank
give
you,
you that
Mr.
honour of going first.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Minister, what is the last estimate you have of Health New Zealand's deficit?
The advice I've received is that they're on track to deliver on the $1.1 billion deficit, which is what was projected, and they're on track to deliver that in this financial year.
How much savings will be required in the coming financial year to meet the target of a $200 million deficit for Health New Zealand?
Well, the advice I've received is that Health New Zealand is making substantial progress.
What's
and Health New Zealand is making substantial progress on a month-by-month basis to reduce its deficit position.
How much is going to have to be cut?
Look, what will be delivered is a significant $1.37 billion investment in this budget, operational investment into Health New Zealand's baseline.
That could be dwarfed by the scale of cuts.
I'll ask that you please don't.
Well, if a simple piece of information like Health New Zealand's cuts for the financial year, that we are discussing this.
Well, we are focused on delivering within the budget. The budget is a $1.37 billion uplift, and thanks to the work that Health New Zealand has
with
done.
a secret amount of cuts.
Yeah,
Look, I'm happy to answer your questions. The reality is there is a $1.37 billion uplift in the investment going into Health New Zealand, and that is additional funding for frontline services, both across hospital and specialist services, and also across primary and community care. The reality is the month-by-month financial position is improving significantly, meaning that uplift will go towards investment in frontline services and frontline delivery. Because of the work that the commissioners have done, the month-by-month run rate in terms of its the deficit position has improved to such a point
that that
investment will be fully going into frontline services.
Mr. Chair, supplementary question. There is a statutory requirement for a health plan to be presented that costs the activities that are underway. Why is that health plan not part of this hearing?
Well, the last government passed the Paiwara Healthy Futures Act, which was more focused on strategies than surgeries. And the reality is it was constantly looking at how many planning documents you could write rather than actually how much you could deliver. My focus as Minister of Health is actually on getting people the healthcare that they need. Now,
it seems to be on hiding financial information from Parliament.
No, it's about focusing on delivery. That's why we put back the health targets. That's why we released the health target data yesterday, which clearly shows that improvements have been made. My focus is on delivery for patients.
Hiding what's happening with
and
$58 billion of public money.
And delivering, there will be each year, Health New Zealand provides financial reports as part of its annual report. It does that each and every year. And the answer to your question is that the last government's reforms were focused on strategies, not surgeries. I'm focused on delivery, and the accountability mechanisms are very clear.
I think the answer should be, they should be here in silence. I mean, we can't keep doing the argument during the minister giving the answer because I can't hear the answer at all.
It's not necessarily a point of order, but yeah, I do hear your point, and I have asked that we allow the minister to speak. Actually, one more.
Questions been answered. I mean, there were 5 questions about cuts. That wasn't addressed. This is a simple question. That wasn't addressed. There's going to be a point where members will seek an actual answer to the questions that are asked.
Yeah, I understand that. But if we can keep it coming through the chair, that helps to keep it orderly. I think the issue is that you've got people shouting over each other, and it's hard for everyone to hear what is being said.
Okay. Supplementary question. A third also of your letter of expectations to Health New Zealand is redacted. What are you hiding?
Well, there's work underway in relation to next year's delivery. One of those areas is around the work that's underway around electives for the next financial year. And Health New Zealand will be announcing those plans once those are confirmed. But we're very focused on delivery. That's what I'm focused on, is getting people the treatments and the delivery that is required to be done.
Well, that letter sets out how almost $30 billion of taxpayers' money is to be spent, and the public can't see it.
Well, the government policy statement on health outlines the government's expectations on what Health New Zealand should be delivering on. That document is publicly available and outlines our priorities as government, which includes the 5 health targets, which your government removed. And by the way, every single one of them went backwards over your 6 years in government. So I would suggest looking in the mirror and looking back at the wait list, the ballooning wait list that we inherited, the problems that we're now focused on fixing, and a system that I'm focused on making sure it delivers for patients. If you look at first special assessments, the number of people waiting more than 4 months increased by 6,400% over your 6 years in government.
When you're
The number
saying
of people waiting
20,000
more than
lives in a
4
pandemic,
months-
lecture me about patients.
Well, the number of people waiting more than 4 months for an elective treatment increased by 2,500% under your government. We have a wait list, we have challenges, and we're focused on delivering for patients.
Okay, I'm going to move over here.
I've got
Question.
a sup on this line of questioning.
You have a supplementary, and then I'll come to a
I have a
primary.
sup as well.
You have a sup? Do you have a primary?
Yes, I have.
And I've got
I need
primaries.
you to put through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll
Yep.
keep doing it that way.
Sup, primary.
My sup,
Sup, primary.
my sup.
It's Labour's fault. It's Labour's fault. It's Labour's fault.
Sorry, he's talking so damn fast. I didn't even catch the name of the report because I'd like to read that report. Like,
Brooke?
I didn't catch it.
can you give me the link to the video so I can look at the transcript real quick? I just want to get the name for that document that he was referring to.
Yeah, no problem. Well, the transcript may not be the best because you know what Vimeo's like, but yeah, I've just given you that link.
Let's have a quick look.
But yeah, like that just seems to be like, what do you call it? Like, Simeon's not answering the question, but then the chair should be saying, you know, you're not answering the question. Answer the question. Stop, you know, Sam Muffindale, stop giving Simeon Brown a free pass.
Yeah, the amount of times that's happened so far throughout Scrutiny Week. Hold
Yeah.
on, we want to, you know, and they'll say, "Hold on, let's hear the minister's answer," and it's more like, "Yeah, you want to hear the minister's fucking ramble."
Yeah, it's definitely, this is like, what the hell?
Well, I mean, we know this is what we do know, right? We do know that up to 2.5 billion was recommended for funding for healthcare for this year or per annum. We do know that that's national underfunded that. I think it's 1.37 billion if the numbers are correct. But anyway, so we know they're already doing cuts. That much is very clear. Yeah, 1.37 billion.
I do love it how there's the one in here that needs to be punished for not answering the question, $1,000 fine. But knowing the way how the select committee actually goes, all those in favour say aye, punish for the fine. All those say no. The government has the noes have it, fine not issued.
Yeah, I don't know why the chair is like someone like in government.
Well, most of the select committees they are, but I mean, some are just better than others. Like, I'll be honest with you, when I've had James Meagher when he was chair of the Justice Committee on the 2 occasions I dealt with him in the Justice Committee, no problem. Very professional, showing how to be a chair. The Education Workforce Committee, Carl Bates was the chair, no issues whatsoever. The next time I was in front of Justice, it was Andrew Bailey. And he was polite, civil.
He was polite.
You know, it wasn't like they didn't like Sam Muffindale has not shown himself to be a competent chair. Like he's been like from what I've seen, he seems to come across as one of the worst.
I think the only other one I remember so far is Bailey, and I just kept calling him a loser the entire time. So.
We got an AI remake song that Blake told me, can you please put it, here's the words, and can you please put it into a song that made a song about Andrew Bailey. Yeah. Okay, let's kick off and see more about what's happening.
To the Minister, noting the references to strategy, is I want to understand what pai ora means to the Minister. Can you explain what pai ora means?
Well, the Pai Ora Act means healthy futures for New Zealanders, and we are making sure that we're delivering on that through our 5 health targets.
Pai ora means a bit more than that if you know Tā Mason Jury and you've read the Act. Now, if we can look to what pai ora means for thriving, healthy individuals, whānau and community, how do you believe that your budget's going to deliver on these things that pai ora has promised New Zealanders?
Because we have 5 health targets which are focused on delivery for patients. And as I said earlier, the last government removed the health targets and every single one of them went backwards. And I think about the immunisation target, which went back significantly, and the impact that has had on our Māori children in Tamariki. That is an abject failure of the previous government. And I'm proud to see that the numbers are starting to trend back up in the right direction because we've put the target back in place. We're holding primary healthcare organisations accountable, and we are focusing back on what really matters. So that is where we are seeing delivery. And my role as Minister of Health and the funding that this budget puts into healthcare is to continue that focus for all New Zealanders.
So
Okay,
the
I'm gonna,
minister,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
go,
I-
Hamish.
it's an ongoing.
It's
The left is so
Can I ask that
anti-vax.
SUPs actually be SUPs on the primary? This is now a question around pie order.
Excellent. Thank you, Minister. And you have been talking about ballooning wait lists, and we've been talking about healthcare allowing people to thrive. And I think you said the wait time for elective surgeries increased over 2,000%. Was this why elective boost was necessary?
Look, absolutely why elective boost was necessary, because actually people are waiting too long for those treatments, hips, knees, cataract operations. People are waiting too long. It's unacceptable. And I make no apology for utilising the private sector and outsourcing a large number of procedures and surgeries to the private sector in order to get things done. And so that's why the elective boost has been put in place.
What
It's
is
about
the
saying we need to
average wait time?
maximise what is delivered both in the public system.
I think, according to them, it's more than 4 months. I don't know what the average wait time is.
Okay.
I'll Google it.
And in the
Get that
private
information.
system, so that patients can get the care that they need in a timely manner. And that's what we're delivering on. And Health New Zealand is very focused, and we're going to continue that focus into the next financial year.
Another thing he hasn't
Thank you,
defined is a
Cameron.
timely
This
manner.
primary is actually on elective boost. You talked about some of the increased procedures that I heard in your initial comments. I think I heard 9,500. How does that track against what you were expecting to get off the waiting list?
Well, we are targeting 10,500 by the end of June. The numbers that we have, I think, are to the 18th of May for the 9,500.
Right.
So we are well on track to deliver against that target. But my focus has been very clear that to Health New Zealand, that target is just the target is to be. My expectation is they should be well outperforming that target and delivering as much as possible. But look, I mean, what we're doing here is not something new. Outsourcing has been part of how elective treatments, hip, knees, cataract operations have been delivered for some time by the health system. What we're doing is we're putting a step change in place to really get on top of those wait lists. The majority of those surgeries have been to people waiting more than 4 months for those surgeries. And so we're just bringing a real focus to getting things done.
So that's
Supplementary.
Supplementary.
Supplementary
Yeah,
here and
so
then
that-
SUP
that-
over here.
Okay, I was looking for 2 subs there, but that 4 months waiting list that you referenced, actually, what is that meaning for people who are getting these elective boost surgeries through this program? How much are New Zealanders who have been waiting for such a long time for surgery? How much are they? What's the decrease in waiting time for the individuals that are actually getting these surgeries?
Well, I think it's around 60% or more have been for people waiting more than 4 months.
Right.
And so for people who have been waiting, a long time for, say, a hip surgery or a knee surgery, they've been waiting, in a lot of them in pain. And so being able to speed up the delivery and get them that treatment that they need makes a significant difference in every one individual's life. And I actually make no apology for that fact that we are using the private sector to deliver that. I make no apology for that. We're focused on delivery. And for those patients who are receiving that treatment, they do not care who's delivering it. They want it done, and we're focused on doing it.
Of course. And final sup on that, Mr. Chair. Is there any other areas? I mean, this has been a success using the efficient private sector to actually deliver some extra surgeries. Is there any other areas that you're looking at that we could utilise what the
Look,
private
my
sector can do?
expectation of Health New Zealand is that they utilise and maximise delivery across both the public and private system to deliver within their budget the treatments that New Zealanders expect in relation to our health targets. And so, look, there will always be other areas, but if you look at the health system, there are many public-private partnerships in the health system. Primary practice is a public-private partnership. Aged care is a public-private partnership. So we are simply just delivering what is actually standard practice across a significant portion of our health system with a very clear focus on patients and delivery.
Okay, we've got SUPs from.
Okay. So let's.
Okay, so sorry about that, guys. I've been doing live research while he was spouting on, but yeah, I have real issue with language like maximum delivery and speedy recovery and all that stuff. Like, it's so fucking vague. There's no numbers.
All these
there's no-
undefined terms.
Yeah, that's so undefined. And again, he's talking about public-private partnerships. Yeah. So if Brooke Van Velden had turned up today, right, I would have gone into the ACC stuff, okay? Because again, they're facing a 5.8 billion deficit, and a lot of that money goes towards private providers. So the cost of levies for ACC and other stuff is going to go up because of this over-reliance on private sector carers, and we've got an aging working population as well. We've also got experienced workers that are leaving the country, so people are getting more injured on the job. This is a fucking train wreck in the works.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Get back on track. We're crashing off track.
And that's not to say you can't even use like the private sector just temporarily as a stopgap to at least assist the overload, but you need to invest in the public sector to get it to grow and to get it to actually catch back up. Otherwise, what you're doing is just investing in private and growing the private sector.
That's exactly what they're doing. Going over the documents, and I had to go through over 3 different documents. That's exactly what they're doing. They're just using public money to boost the private sector and transfer as much as they can over to the private sector. The problem is that the private sector can essentially select and choose, like what Dr. Gary Pienda has been saying. They can select and pick what they want to do. And so you get people that have chronic conditions not being seen. And you get this backlog. And because backroom cuts are being made, you know, the conditions are just going to get worse. We could have had more preventative care that was publicly accessible.
Yeah. I mean, here's something from what Blake is saying in the chat here. Blake would be seen as that high-risk case the private sector probably wouldn't want to touch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd need to take out quite a... I don't know if he's got insurance or not, but, you know...
would he possibly even get approved?
Because that's what ACC is really supposed to cover for us, with people like Blake. But you've got...
yeah, but I mean, is Blake's needs injury-related or non-injury? I mean, put it this way. And that's the thing. Injury-related is covered by ACC. Like, here's one that's not injury-related. Appendicitis. Emergency surgery, but it is not ACC covered. Actually, funny enough, Wins actually asked me, could ACC cover that?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to, that was the next point I was going to go on to. Under Labour, the scope for what ACC covers has widened, which is one of the reasons why we've got this deficit, because workers have not been paying the levies into ACC that they should have. So there's this big deficit gap because care has expanded. We have an aging work population, but the amount that you've got to pay into has not increased.
Yeah.
So we've got this big hole.
Yeah, well, I've got to admit, we do spend a lot on ACC levies. I've lost count. How much is the ACC levy on a litre of petrol?
Jesus Christ.
Because I know that's probably my biggest contributor to ACC is the amount of money I spend on petrol.
I can have a look.
Yeah.
I didn't actually look up that one.
No, but that to me, that is, I contribute more in petrol than I would pay in payroll and employer deductions.
Well, for a petrol car, well, RNZ has got a thing on it. What is this? EV owners will have their ACC levy increased from 42 in the current year, same as a petrol car, to 109.
Oh, so that's on the actual rego, but I think there might be also ACC levy on the price of petrol. So I'm just oh, that's helpful. That doesn't sit there and answer the question I want to see.
ACC financial sustainability levies and performance. This looks like an interesting document. Let me have a look through this.
I've just had Blake message me.
Yeah, I can hear him messaging you in the background.
Yeah. So Shannon said that the committee that they committed to the end of happening. Brooke did turn up, but she refused to answer any questions whatsoever on pay equity. Did end up happening. Hey, that's all good. My question is, why the hell can we not find it on the education workforce page? Is more what I'm annoyed about, not the fact that it's the fact that it's been live streamed we cannot see. But that's beside the point. Thanks for that, Blake. You know, you've kind of at least you know Brooke isn't exactly missing in action. Just her footage is missing in action. Back to what you were saying, Laura.
I'm just putting the document through DeepSeek so it can be scraped through. And I normally hate doing this because I like having time to read through things myself, because I know DeepSeek is not in other AI things, and this is kind of like AI education time. But AI is not really that great at developing accurate summaries.
Yeah.
So just a warning for people that use AI as a part of their work or whatever. So just be aware of that. You want to double check everything that it's doing. But I'm just going to see if I can go through that document to get that information.
It is 6 cents a litre on petrol. I found out on a document from MB. So on the price of a litre of petrol, there is 6 cents goes to ACC, going up to 6.8 cents from the 2025-2026. So that'll be on the 1st of July. 0.8 cents of a litre of petrol price will go up to pay for additional ACC levies.
Yeah, that's what DeepSeek is saying as well. I just got that information.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting because I know I've been for a lot of I've been for a lot of litres, but I mean also I do put 40,000 Ks on my clock every year on the car. Yeah, so there's a fair bit of petrol in there.
Yep.
Okay, let's get to more Simeon Brown and let's while we try to work out what's our next section on ACC levies.
Sure, and Johanna.
In April, Treasury noted that the elective surgery target is being gained with the prioritisation of people who haven't been waiting long over those who have. Is it fair to make people who have been waiting longer continue to wait so that your target improves?
No, we are focused on long waiters with our elective boost. That is the expectation and that is the results of the numbers. The elective boost is focused on long waiters because actually it is important that people get seen. The target is about ensuring people get seen within 4 months, and the elective boost has been focused on those long waiters so that they are able to get their treatments seen in a timely manner. And so we make no apology for our elective boost policy and what we're doing, utilising the private sector, and the focus is on long waiters.
Treasury is saying you've created a system of incentives where people are prioritising short waiters in order to meet your targets. Is that fair? No, Treasury
says all sorts of things. My point here is the facts. The facts are the majority of the people receiving treatment for elective boost are people waiting over 4 months.
Yeah, the economists say all sorts of things that disagree with
me. Is it also a fact?
Yeah, Treasury's not our friend.
That since mid-2020...
Injections from the panelists?
No. I just found it really funny how he just kind of said, well, Treasury says all sorts of things. I'm like, yeah, they're the economists and the accountants. Of course, they're going to say yes. What did you expect? Yes.
They might say things
Treasury just does their job.
Yeah. Their things are not sit down there and, parrot what you say.
Yeah, Treasury disagrees with me, therefore they're wrong.
Yeah, they're woke news.
23, where 62% of people were receiving their elective treatments within 4 months. This is now down to 57.3%.
Well, the targets, the data was released yesterday, but that is why we put in place elective boost. That data point was to the end of March. Elective boost started in the middle of, around that period of time. I think it was late February. It is really the majority of the elective boost treatments have been in April and May, so following that data point, and the focus has been on long waiters. I'm happy for Dale to speak to that.
So to the question about long waiters, that has absolutely been the focus in the request to all the regions to focus on long waiters.
Dr. Bramley, has the proportion of short waiters who are getting treatment increased over the proportion of long wait relative to the proportion of long waiters? That's what Treasury has described.
The focus for the elective boost has absolutely been on long waiters.
Can you answer my question, please, Dr. Bramley?
It is a higher proportion of long waiters in the elective boost for sure.
So the elective boost has been,
in terms of people getting surgery now, has the proportion of people who have been waiting for less than 4 months gone up in terms of who is getting treatment?
I look forward to you celebrating our Q4 data on the elective treatment.
Well, it'd be good if you released your data.
Q4 hasn't actually finished yet.
Yeah,
on this elective
I wanted
boost,
to unpack the cost effectiveness of engaging private providers in this space, knowing that, we've got private providers with a built-in benefit back to their shareholders, and yet the public system doesn't. Now, we're now locking in 10-year contracts with these providers to deliver these surgeries. Isn't that going to cost more in the long run?
Well, I've asked Health New Zealand to work with our private hospitals to engage around longer-term contracts.
Yeah, that's going to hurt my bank
cost
account.
Efficiency. The approach in the past has been more on an ad hoc basis, which has driven up higher cost for elective surgeries, which are outsourced. But as I said earlier, outsourcing elective treatments is not a new thing. In fact, the Right Honourable Chris Hipkins, when he was the Minister of Health back in 2020, took a paper to Cabinet at the time saying we need to make greater use of the private sector and we need to work with the New Zealand Private Surgical Hospitals Association to deliver longer-term contracts.
Labour good.
This is not something which is new. It is something we want to make sure we are delivering and maximising
the sector's
delivery.
telling you not to do this. It's
Well,
not
we
just
need to
about
maximise
Hipkins.
delivery against both the public system and the private system. And part of the elective
can't
boost
turn
is
your back
actually
on the health professionals that are doing it.
part of the elective boost is actually investing more into Burwood Hospital and into Tochira Haumatu in Auckland to ensure that we are delivering more through the dedicated elective treatment hospital services that Health New Zealand also operates, so that patients can be seen in a timely and quality manner.
Okay, we've got a sub from Hamish.
Thank you, Minister. What effect, by taking some of the pressure off, by using some of our facilities around the country that may be private, what effect does that have on our public system when they need to do some other stuff?
Well, the issue here is it maximises what can be delivered against the public and private system. There are some parts of the country where actually we're really challenged around delivery of those elective treatments in the public system. Give you the example of Nelson, which does have a bed shortage. That's why we're actually investing in the upgrade of the hospital in Nelson. And when the hospital's full, the elective wait lists and the elective lists get cancelled. And so by outsourcing those lists to private hospitals, we're able to get those patients seen and get those treatments delivered. Another example is when we do hit the winter months and the hospitals get busy with winter illnesses, elective wait lists and elective lists often get cancelled to prioritise acute care. And so by focusing on outsourcing and utilising the public and private systems, we can ensure that we continue to deliver for patients. And I make no apology, as I've said multiple times, make no apology about putting patients at the centre of what we're trying to achieve.
Carlos, you've got a sub.
Yes.
I've got you on the list. Yep.
So since we're talking about cost and benefit, as ministry or minister, do you guys have any data on the overall economic benefit? Will people recover faster and back to the workforce faster?
Well, ultimately, when we know that if people are waiting on a wait list, if they're in pain or they're unable to work, that naturally means they're not necessarily contributing as much in their employment or in their employment. And so ultimately, by getting people seen sooner, they're able to contribute more, whether that's to the economy through employment or socially through whatever else they may wish to do. So reducing wait lists has multiple benefits. And I just say again, my focus is on patients, putting patients first and delivery for them in a timely, quality manner.
Okay,
that's nice, Simeon. But how the fuck are we going to achieve that for all the backroom cuts that you just made to ACC?
Also, stamping approvals,
and somehow we got like the opposite of what we expected. We got Treasury bad, and Labor got a good opinion on economy for once. Labor had a good idea. Use the private sector. They said so, but I thought they were incompetent and didn't know how to run the economy. But apparently now
I doubt Simeon Brown would know how to file a GST return. He would have to ask in his EA to file it on zero.
I would be disturbed if he didn't know how to do that, considering his history in the banking sector.
He probably would sit down there and tell Joe Blog Public and to business owners that pay wave surcharges are GST exempt when they're actually not. Because something that is interesting, as you mentioned, banking sector, credit card merchant fees from the merchant to the bank are GST exempt. But if you pay a surcharge, you have to pay GST on that surcharge.
I'm trying to find that data, that fantastic spreadsheet. Remember that time where Simeon Brown made a claim about vaccination rates, and then I brought it up, and it showed that they actually achieved lower targets than what they were going on about. I don't know where I put that sheet, but I've been digging for it. That'd be a great sheet to bring up just about now.
You'll find it.
I'm sure I will. It's just going
to. You
haven't
found the sheet detective road code?
Sorry, what was
you
that?
Found the sheet detective road code?
No, I mean I've got some sheets,
but not the sheet that Lauren can't find.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Yeah, I know what sort of sheets you've got, mate.
Oh.
It's not the sheets that I need.
Oh, I got a sheet here that's a printout of a page of Friedrich Hayek's The Privatization of Money.
Ah, yes.
Oh, well, we used to have that until the 1930s. It was the banks that used to make the notes, not the Reserve Bank, because we didn't have a Reserve Bank until 1930.
But his proposition is that everyone should make their own currency. That's what he proposes in the book. It's hilarious.
Don't do that. Don't do that, by the way. That's how you end up with mafia.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll hear more questions from the Health Select Committee.
Yeah.
Well, where did we... Wait, I just had a key.
Did put my hand up earlier.
Jenny.
Good. 1 in 6 New Zealanders cannot access general practice care because of cost. What will you do to bring that number down?
Look, I think it's a good question, and there's a significant investment into primary care in this budget, including both workforce and Health New Zealand is also allocating a significant uplift to primary care to support greater access. There's a number, and those negotiations through the PSAP negotiations with the PHOs is currently underway, and that will, I think, more clearly answer your question once those are concluded. But ultimately, those are confidential negotiations which are currently underway. In terms of access, I agree. Access to primary care is incredibly important, and that's where the increased investment is focused, so that we can ensure that our primary care providers are financially sustainable, but they're also supported around workforce. And that's where all of those initiatives in the budget are focused, whether it's the 100 overseas doctor training positions, the nurse practitioner training positions, the increased funding for nurses who start their careers in primary care. Those are all about making sure that we're focusing on increasing the resourcing available to primary care, but also a real focus on workforce, which is critically important in primary care.
Can you commit to the cost of seeing a doctor coming down?
Look, those negotiations are underway through the PSAP negotiations. Obviously, they're confidential. My focus is on making sure that primary care is financially sustainable, so that it's able to deliver more for patients and is able to take pressure off the hospital system. And so those negotiations are currently being worked through. But as you know, there's also a number of areas where the government invests to target investment in those who do need support to access primary care, whether that's the under 14s being able to be seen for free. It's the very low cost access scheme. There's the community services card. There's a range of initiatives the government continues to support to ensure that we can target investment for primary care to those who do need it the most.
In January, Health New Zealand put a moratorium on new primary health organisations until policy decisions on PHOs were taken. But 5 months later, a new PHO was allowed. Why?
Well, Health New Zealand lifted that moratorium, as my understanding, and allowed and is allowing applications to come forward. Look, there is continuing work around PHOs, and it's the Ministry of Health is leading that work and providing that advice to me as the Minister of Health. But at the same time, look, there's a process that people want to go through to apply, and that process is open for people who wish to put forward those applications.
The moratorium was put in place because that policy work was underway by your government. And then it appears that it's still continuing, and yet one PHO is allowed to be approved. Did that PHO receive special treatment?
Look, my understanding, the advice I received is that there was a moratorium. That moratorium was lifted. Ultimately, there is policy advice. I think that that policy advice will come. Decisions will be made in due course, and in the meantime, applications are able to be brought forward.
We've got
A couple of supplementaries, please.
one here and then I'll go to Hamish.
Two, if you wouldn't mind, Mr. Chair.
Well, you've had
Will
three.
this-
I'll go to Hamish after this one.
Will this PHO that is closely linked to a corporation be not-for-profit, and how will it be accountable to the community?
Well, my understanding is all primary health organisations are required to be charitable trusts.
Hamish.
Emily, you mean?
Well, that's interesting to find out that all PHOs must be charitable trusts. Now, so I've just gone on here to look at what is a PHO, and that is a group of health providers in a geographical area providing services. In an old scheme of it, in the case of Wellington City, it would be known as Capital and Coast DHB. That would be considered as one PHO, which covers from the right up from the Waikanae right down to Wellington. And I do know there was a different PHO for the Hutt Valley. Just to put some context out there.
There were a lot of problems with the way how you answered that question, especially when I just opened up the data, and I know Detective Rogers, it's very boring. I'm a very boring person, believe it or not. But yeah, he didn't propose anything really to help out communities that don't have, that are not economically wealthy. He didn't, such as like your rural communities and stuff like that. I found it really interesting that the majority of people that struggled to go see a doctor was adults, and he didn't really address adults. He looked at children, which is a much lower number. 1 in 5 children reported that time taken to get an appointment is too long, whereas you compare that to 1 in 4 adults, and most of the people making that complaint are women and disabled people. He didn't even touch that. Which, I mean, is good. He shouldn't be touching disabled people or women, full stop. But, hey, he didn't even bring that up. It's like, this is what we're going to do to resolve this problem. No, he didn't bring it up. He's just like, here's his community services card. Fuck off.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, it's a little bit RSB in its approach, trying to approach it as equality, I guess, rather than focusing on equity, trying to account for the disparities in some of those areas, especially when it comes to what would you say, women and children? Was there skew towards children?
Yeah, that mostly, according to the data, it was wait time for so was most likely to be reported by women aged 25 to 54 years, Pacific peoples, disabled peoples, and those living in the most deprived neighborhoods. So those are the people that seem to have the most trouble being able to go see a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about Gary's comment?
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, it does feel like that. It does feel that literally, was it Sam Uffendalis with the fire extinguisher over Aisha Verrill's fiery questions, trying to keep putting them out.
Well, with all the cuts to ACC, they couldn't afford Simeon Brown going to the hospital, can they? Burn treatment.
No. But maybe we need an artist rendition of Sam Uffendale with the fire extinguisher while, with Aisha grilling Simeon.
I'll have to think about that one.
Gary speaking with his years of wisdom.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay, let's see now what's happening on there.
You mentioned a bit in one of your previous answers about workforce being an issue. What is the government doing to strengthen the workforce in primary healthcare?
Look, there's a number of things we're doing to support the workforce in primary care. As outlined in the budget, we have a significant investment into a range of primary care actions in the primary care tactical plan. We've increased the number of doctor training places in our medical schools. We're providing up to 100 internationally trained doctors the opportunity to be able to train in primary care, supporting up to 50 domestic graduate doctors into primary care, incentivising primary care to recruit and support up to 400 graduate nurses annually for 5 years, improved access to advanced education for up to 120 primary care nurses, delivering up to 120 training places for nurse practitioners specialising in primary care. So there's a range of initiatives that we have underway to support the workforce in primary care. But I said earlier, it's also that additional investment which Health New Zealand will be making to ensure that primary care is well funded so that it is able to continue to be more accessible to
Have
patients.
they got
which is critically
jobs
important.
waiting for them when they come out?
Supplement, thank you, Mr. Chair. In terms of the international medical graduates,
Yep.
Are they tending to go into the regions or into the urban areas? And if they do go into the regions, what kind of support is there available for them? And
Yep.
is their effectiveness being modelled?
Yeah, so that's a really
Actually
good
a
question.
good question.
2 points on that. Firstly, yes, the regions will be part of that. In fact, there was a trial last year. Waikato was the first region which trialled it. And the support around that is a really important part of what Health New Zealand is delivering. We've had a number of conversations with Health New Zealand and also the New Zealand NZ RICS doctors. We've had some workshops with them to actually talk about that particular issue because that is an issue they've raised around the support that's required. And it's an area that I've asked Health New Zealand to continue to focus on so that they are well supported through that training process.
Thank you. I'll go to the Hannah for the primary.
Thank you. Minister, you said on the weekend that you're repealing the health charter and sector principles to reduce red tape and make things clearer for everyone. I just want to refer to the health sector principles that talk about equity, equitable levels of service, equitable health outcomes, that the health sector should provide a choice of quality services and developing and maintaining a health workforce. How is this not clear? Why are we repealing this very key part of the
the reality is
legislation?
the New Zealand Health Charter, which was put in place under the previous government, doesn't mention the word patient once. Doesn't mention the word patient once. It mentions unions 11 times. Doesn't mention patients once. My focus is very clear. Putting patients first, delivering for patients. And so if you look at those health sector principles, one of them is requiring the health system to deliver against like climate change obligations. We have a ministry for the environment for that. I want surgeries, not strategies. I've been very clear about my focus is on patients, reducing wait lists, the 5 health targets, and we need to unclutter the system so that the system can deliver more for patients. And that's why we are making those changes in legislation, which will shortly come before the Select Committee.
Minister, what do you say to those in public health and population health that argue that we need to have targeted approaches across those populations most impacted? Well, what do you say?
And we've been very clear as a government, where there is a need, we will invest. And that's where, last week I announced the extension of the immunising our tamariki initiative, which is an initiative very much focused on immunising Māori children, because that is an area where there is a significant need. And so the health targets are about highlighting the need and highlighting where the focus needs to be and where there is a need to invest to address population inequities, Health New Zealand will deliver on that based on the need.
The health sector principles, Minister, reflect the recommendations of the Waitangi Tribunal on Y2575. Are you turning your back on the recommendations of the Waitangi Tribunal by repealing and
No,
removing the
focusing-
health sector principles?
Focusing on patients. And as I said, the delivery of that is simply putting
Patients
a
are
document.
whānau, patients are
Well,
community.
it's a document which doesn't even refer to patients. There's not the word patient, doesn't even feature once in the document that was produced. And so I'm putting patients first, focusing on outcomes. We have 5 health targets, and we want to make sure we're improving health outcomes for both Māori and non-Māori, for all New Zealanders, through the delivery of the services that Health New Zealand
Okay,
provides.
so let's unpack that. Because you've referred to improving services for Māori. You're relegating iwi Māori partnership boards now to what community whānau voice. What happens to the plans that have been commissioned and developed locally? You're elevating the HMAC, the Hauora Māori Advisory Committee, above and beyond the iwi Māori partnership boards. Why?
Well, we want to make sure that the advice that the iwi Māori partnership boards flows through to the Hauora Māori Advisory Committee, and that advice can then be provided to the Minister or the Health New Zealand board to consider the advice. So it's about actually enhancing the role of HMAC, streamlining the advice that is brought forward, and ensuring that those voices are clearly able to be represented. But at the end of the day, we want to improve health outcomes for all New Zealanders. We have 5 health targets which are incredibly clear, and our focus is on delivering against them.
And so the iwi Māori partnership boards,
Come through the chair, please.
Mr. Chair,
And then we'll go to
iwi
Aisha.
Māori
Yes,
partnership boards are seeing their power stripped back. They will no longer have a strategic commissioning function. Are they going to be monitoring the system anymore? Or are they just community whānau voice?
They will
Where
be
are they being
providing
placed?
they'll be providing the views and the areas which need to be focused on, and providing that advice up through the Hauora Māori Advisory Committee. That legislation will shortly be before the House, and this committee will have the opportunity to consider it.
And in closing,
Dr. Vera,
the Hauora Māori Advisory Committee, there is no information on this group online. The Public Health Advisory Committee, you can see their work plans, you can see their minutes, you can see their board packs. What is the terms of reference for the Hauora Māori Advisory Committee? And when will we be able to see what they're actually doing tangibly to improve Māori health outcomes?
Yeah, and I've provided a number of reports which I believe are available online, and we're happy to
Cannot see them.
happy to provide that
Where are their
information.
minutes?
Come back to you on that.
Okay.
Majority.
Sorry, I laughed when he said, I want surgeries, not strategies. I'm like,
He,
Oh
he
my
said that
God.
way earlier too. He's like, the last government focused on strategizing. It's like,
Like,
what?
Well, I mean,
This is a
do you
bit
want to
line.
sit down there and have say, let's get someone under surgery? They're meant to be going in to have their appendix removed and suddenly have their ovaries removed and can't produce children, which goes against the wishes of what the patient wanted. Is
Yeah,
that
but at
what-
least
surgery,
they
it's not
got a
strategies.
surgery at least, though.
Yeah, what's the
Yeah,
surgery?
yeah.
You
But
don't
you
need
know,
to meet the freaking targets.
like, is that what he's trying to mean? Because like the whole point of having strategies is making sure that you actually have a plan to go in place. I mean, do you want to sit down there and have an HCA as your anaesthetist?
Oh, shit.
I mean, knowing Simeon,
Oh.
he probably would sit down there and give the thumbs up to that, simply
Yes,
because he'll
yes.
see the cost of an HCA being cheaper than a well-paid anaesthetist.
We are so fucked. Oh my god. All of a sudden, he just forgot about the nursing hiring freeze as well.
Yeah, that probably was a bit convenient.
It's like, oh
There's
yeah, we got
there's
all...
no hiring freeze. There's no.
No,
hiring
there's no,
freeze.
there is no hiring freeze. You know,
There's
all
no
these
hiring
nurses
freeze.
and doctors leaving for Australia, that's not happening.
I mean, every internal memo basically says there is a hiring freeze, but
Yeah.
officially there's no hiring freeze.
No, no.
And
You know, they say
Obviously,
many
but
things
people
about
who
Australia
work
that
in
I
the
disagree
hospitals
with.
or the politicians. Who are you going to believe?
I mean, I wonder if we'll have a new health minister within the next 12 months.
Oh, really?
Ugh.
All right.
Well,
Oh
you
my
never
God.
know. I mean, is Simeon really up to the job?
No.
No, he's not. He's
No.
definitely not. But
No.
the last guy was like a certified doctor. He was up to the job, and he got kicked.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't sit there and do the nasty things because it went against his Hippocratic oath.
Here's the problem with Shane Reti. He tried to do strategy and surgery. Simeon Brown just wanted the surgeries. He didn't want the strategies.
Yeah, he just wants to bark.
And say what you want about Sigaretti. Like he didn't play silly semantics games. He didn't sit there like I never saw him do the whole blame labor.
No,
angle or
he
anything like
didn't.
that. Like he was quite He's quite upfront, I think, in a lot of his conversations. Maybe that's why they got rid of him.
Yeah,
You're too honest.
Too honest, yeah.
That's the problem. It's like you don't even give him a truth, Professor Snape's truth potion, and he's already telling the truth.
Now, who was it? That Jenny Maycroft, was it her that asked what about rural nurses?
Yes,
But
yes.
she actually a question.
Yeah, remember, Jenny Maycroft is a sensible New Zealand First MP.
Yeah, no, she actually asked a good question. What about the rural nurses? What money has been put forward to help people from rural communities go and study nursing and, go study to be a doctor? Because generally, I mean, I have looked at the sociological data around this, is that normally you want to train people from a community to go work back in that community because they tend to return. Unfortunately, what's happening is because doctors are so underpaid and overworked that they're going off to Australia.
And they're going to go to the communities that they came from. So they might go to the Sydneys. They might go to Alice Springs instead of returning to Masterton.
Yeah, they go to a parallel community that offers better pay.
Yeah. When I think of Alice Springs, it's a place that's in the middle of nowhere in Australia.
Yep.
Or maybe
But they're training nurses. Don't worry, they're training them.
They're training nurses,
yeah, they just can't guarantee they'll have anything when they
won't stay, no.
Yeah. Okay, let's see more fun from Simeon.
Thank you. The majority of this budget is cost pressure increases. For hospital and specialist services, it's a 6% change. For primary care, it's 6.5% change. But for Māori, it's only 2%. How do you justify that? Is inflation less for Māori?
The budget invests for all New Zealanders. Every single dollar is going to go towards investing in health services which deliver for all New Zealanders. And so when it comes to hospital and specialist services, they deliver services for all New Zealanders. When it comes to primary care, they deliver for all New Zealanders. My focus is on delivering health services for all New Zealanders.
Thank you, Minister. And of course, one of the challenges in the healthcare system, which potentially could lead to disparities in health, is access to primary healthcare. How do you see things like telehealth helping to bridge some of that gap?
Well, that is one of the areas that we are investing in this budget, is around providing New Zealanders with the opportunity to be able to access online digital GP appointments through a new 24/7 initiative, which will be launched shortly. And that will provide another option, another choice for New Zealanders to be able to access primary care. Ultimately, the primary care will remain with the general practitioner that a patient is registered with. They will remain the primary carer, but this will become another option, another choice. I think there's some parts of the country where there's long areas to travel, or where there are current disparities. This provides another option, another alternative choice for patients to be able to access the care that they need.
Minister, you've spoken to Hauora Māori outcomes, and we've heard that there's been a minuscule increase of Hauora Māori funding. We've got a 7 to 8 year age gap in life expectancy between Māori and non-Māori. So wanting to understand what you have funded as a specific initiative that will have a measured impact on that Māori, non-Māori life expectancy gap.
Well, there's a range of initiatives in this budget which will focus on all New Zealanders and ensure that we are improving health outcomes for all New Zealanders. And when I look across whether it's elective treatments, whether it's faster cancer treatments, whether it's shorter stays in emergency departments, or the investment in primary care, those investments are focused on delivering for all New Zealanders. And the health target data that is
focused on all New Zealanders
is also being released with a focus on how Māori or Pacific communities are also accessing and being measured against those health targets, because actually it's important that we do provide that data and we do measure the data as to how it is impacting on different communities to ensure the health system is delivering for all New Zealanders.
Māori die 7 to 8 years earlier than non-Māori. What is a specific initiative that you are funding that will close those gaps?
Well, I'd say one of the key things we're doing is investing significant uplift in this budget on new cancer medicines, and that is going to make a huge difference for all New Zealanders. That is a record investment in cancer medicines, which has funded over 20 new cancer medicines. And a significant number of other treatments, which will make a big difference for many New Zealanders.
Many. That's not all.
He's so bad at this. He is so bad at. He's just
Here's the song. A talking point there. A talking point there. Here's a talking point. There's a talking point. Everywhere there's a talking point. Simeon Brown with his talking points.
How are you going to help Maori? Well, all New Zealanders are going to get help.
Yeah, no, don't worry. 2% funding increase for Māori. New cancer medications, though. Again, I can go over all the ACC data all day because Māori is one of the most highest impacted groups of people that face workplace-related injuries. And I took all these notes because I thought we were going to have Brooke van Velden on today. But yeah, again, it's not just cancer. Telehealth is nice, but you know it has limitations. They can't do physical exams, for example.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think there's a lump on my breast. Yeah, can you please push it a bit closer to the webcam?
Yeah. I don't know how this math works out. He's like 2% for Māori, 6% for everyone else. I'm like, okay.
What's the Pacific Islander percentage?
I don't know, but he's like saying like 60% is like, well, you know, it's like, well, 60% of New Zealand's population is not Maori, so we'll give them 6%, and 20% of New Zealand's population is Maori, so we'll give them 2%. I guess the other 20% goes to the MPs or something.
Yeah, well, here's another one. Let's give 10% to Pakuranga. Let's give 10% to East Tamaki and Epskin, but Rovatai, let's only give 2%. Let's only give 2% to Wellington Central. Let's be a bit generous in Ohio because Nicola's going to win the election, win the next election, so we'll give 6% there, you know. And we've got to give 6% of Hutt South because we've got to keep the bush in place. Let's give no, you only get 2% because that's safe labour seat that's been held like that since Jerry Wall sat there and first lit a cigarette. Let's go to, what do you call it, Otiki Electric. Oh, no. We've got to give 6%. Tim Costley's in there, you know. I think you get my picture of like the electorates, you know, you can put it down to electorates and where you give them the percentages.
I want to know how he did the maths with us, eh? How we got to 2 and 6%.
Oh.
Road cone, detective.
What's
up? Thoughts?
Oh, sorry, I was just letting you go on.
No thoughts, no thoughts, just cones.
No cones either. I'm drinking wine.
How are you going to cope if you ended up on that arty show called Crosstalk? You'll be silent the whole time.
No, I did want to highlight because I was so distracted. I was trying to figure out how I could highlight a comment. I just wanted to highlight Gary talking about Simeon being super dodgy, no eye contact line get.
You don't have that function.
Well, he looks like he's a deer in headlights. He looks like there's a bunch of people around just ready to beat him up. He's literally like just got his eyes are just like frightened.
Yeah, that's why they had to cut it down from 90 minutes to 60 minutes.
Am I about to get my daily wedgie from Aya Shavira? You know, well, I mean, you know, and has he got his Blues Clues books?
Yeah, I mean, there's only enough in the budget to deal with second-degree burns, not third-degree burns and ego burns.
Okay, let's see more from Simeon.
Government has made a big initiative around cancer medicines. Why on earth aren't you measuring cancer survival if you're so concerned about outcomes?
Well, there's a large number of measurements that we do to ensure that we are focused.
Whether you live or die is a pretty important one, isn't it?
We're focused.
$600 million of public spending and you're not measuring that.
Well, we're focused on making sure we improve Kiwis' access to medicines, something that your government left a massive fiscal hole that we had to fix in budget 2024. So again, I suggest you look in the mirror.
It doesn't really care about
I suggest, no, you look, if you want to talk about medicines, you don't care about medicines because you left a fiscal hole of hundreds of millions of dollars in budget 2024 that we had to fix. We had to fix.
Can't even just answer yes to if it's important.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Minister. This morning you put on social media that you were committed to being transparent and accountable, yet you have refused to answer simple questions around what has happened to the up to $90 million settlement between Health NZ and the Masterton District Council, money earmarked solely for the Wairarapa Hospital, to the extent that the Ombudsman is now investigating. So can you please tell me if any of that settlement money has been spent on a purpose other than Wairarapa Hospital?
Well, as I've said to you on multiple occasions, there was a confidential settlement. I'm not aware of the details of that settlement. And
that's good, because I'm not asking about settlement. I'm asking about expenditure, which is what this hearing is about. I'm not asking you how much the settlement was. I accept that's confidential. And in fact, I haven't asked you that once. What I'm asking you is, has any of that settlement been spent for any other purpose other than Wairarapa Hospital? That is something you are accountable for.
You're making an assumption around the question of financial settlement. I have not been briefed on the settlement. Settlement is confidential. And what I would say in regards to Wairarapa Hospital is it has been highlighted in the health infrastructure plan as an area that requires investment. and it is an area which I'm focused on ensuring it does receive investment in its infrastructure. It has received some investment into sort of earthquake strengthening,
which was before the settlement.
And there will be continued investment. I understand there are business cases underway on increased MRI capacity. There is a business case underway, I believe, in terms of endoscopy services. And so there is certainly work underway to ensure we continue to invest.
All the money from that settlement being used to Wairarapa Hospital.
Well, I can commit to I can say that there will continue to be investment in Wairarapa Hospital. That is critically important to the people of Wairarapa and critically important to this government that we do focus and invest in Wairarapa Hospital. It's been identified in the health infrastructure plan. There are business cases underway. We're very focused on that.
Isn't it actually the case that you've taken that settlement and used it for other purposes? Given that Health New Zealand claimed during the court process that an entire new hospital is required, such are the deficiencies in that hospital. The claim was for up to $90 million. You initially tried to use the excuse that it was confidential, even though the questions were about expenditure. Then you've come back with a ludicrous claim that it's not in the public interest. This can be cleared up straight away by you saying, yes, I'm not going to tell you what the settlement is, which is fine, but all of it will be spent on Wairarapa Hospital.
I don't know.
And you've refused to do
that.
No,
I don't know what the settlement was. It's confidential.
I'm not asking about that.
You said, well, and I said you're making an assumption about my knowledge, and I don't have knowledge of the settlement.
Rubbish.
But what I am committed to is the Wairarapa Hospital requires investment. It's identified in the health infrastructure plan. There are some business cases underway, and that will outline future investment that is required.
Can you rule out, last question, Mr. Chair.
That's fine. That's fine.
Can you rule out any of that settlement being used for other purposes?
Well, again, I make the same point. You're making assumptions about settlement.
There has been a settlement.
There has been a settlement, but you're making a question. You're making an assumption around what the settlement is. I have no knowledge of the settlement.
It has been used for elsewhere.
But
and you're not being upfront about it.
I can say this, that investment is required in the Wairarapa Hospital. It is a priority outlined in the health infrastructure plan. There are business cases underway on a range of areas of which require investment, and that will then make future decisions around allocation of
those things. What we don't know is what you've done with that money.
Mr. Chair.
Hamish,
Thank you, Minister.
Yeah, I had a look at the cancer data web tool and I couldn't find any data from 2004. That's a bit bloody concerning, isn't it? Especially if they're proposing to, I don't know, decrease the amount of deaths by cancer. I would like to have that data, please. Yeah, there's no funding for that data. I want to know. I've even put the link to that tool in the chat so people can have a look for themselves to see if they can find it, because I can't find it. Yeah, I mean, I did find a note here. The data request is not available online for 2023 or 2024 from Health New Zealand's online cancer data web tool. And that was posted on the 20th of February.
God, that sounds awkward.
But yeah, considering that Māori tend to have a higher rate of dying from cancer, I want to know how many are surviving.
Yeah.
So we can get kind of like an accurate picture of how much needs to be funded.
Well, he could tell you about all New Zealanders.
Oh yeah, he could tell us about but he can't. That's the thing. He can't because we don't have the data for it.
I mean, when he was talking about Marsden Hospital, I wasn't sure if Marsden Hospital was about to be sitting there and make this big state-of-the-art tertiary hospital of New Zealand.
Oh, let me talk about Marsden Hospital for a second. That's where I got necrotizing fasciitis and almost lost my life. I had to go through multiple different surgeries, including being taken down to Heart Hospital to get my leg, to get a couple of rounds. Sorry, let me get straight. To get a round of plastic surgery done, which was very painful, and then I had to go back to Marsden Hospital and get the finished part of my leg reconstruction surgeries done. It took about 4 surgeries to fix my left leg, which should have taken 1 surgery.
I mean, I just love how Kieran just called bullshit. He's like, look, you dodged the question, mate, because you've spent the money. It's going elsewhere.
Yeah, I can testify to that bullshit. He's absolutely correct. I've seen it. I'm a living example of that bullshit.
Yeah, it's like, you know, like if you could sit there and have like the Red Dwarf, like there was the H over it for hologram, they should have what do you call it? The B bullshit but the B for bullshit on top of Simeon's every time he's been speaking for this whole thing.
Yeah, I know people talk about spending 2 weeks in MIQ being held, but try spending 2 weeks in a hospital bed when you're dying, attached to all these machines, attached to morphine, attached to a leg that smells like shit. You know, try that and then complain to me about MIQ.
Yeah.
I like what Gary has just sat there and said there. I would agree.
Yeah.
I don't think
I love it.
Simeon is actually. I think this is the starting of his downfall.
It is. He's doing so badly here. He's doing terribly. Like, look, it hasn't taken me very long to find the data, or the lack of data.
Lack of data, yeah.
And he's over here sweating and, you know, trying to memorize all his talking points. It's like, dude, you're the minister. You should have the shit out there in front of you.
Okay, let's see if he sticks to his talking points.
There's been $1 billion allocated to health infrastructure that's going to benefit communities, hospitals right across the country. Could you tell us about the new modular units that you've recently announced?
Yeah, look, this is part of the budget 2025 infrastructure allocation, and the outcome here is to invest in rapid increase in bed capacity where there are priorities. 2 areas which have been identified so far. One is Nelson. There's a need to focus on bed capacity there, and that we have identified that hospital is requiring that. Modular builds enable faster development than building a full-scale hospital. So it allows us to have that bed capacity sooner to provide those services. That's the intention. In Nelson, we've also allocated funding for the new hospital rebuild there, which will increase bed numbers. And so this is an interim measure to support that hospital to be able to continue to deliver the care that's required and increase the care that's required in Nelson whilst that build is underway.
Excellent. And you talk about the Nelson Hospital. What steps has the government taken to ensure major redevelopments have stalled, such as Nelson, are delivered?
Look, I think it's really important that we focus on delivery. And I think the challenge we've had across the health estate in recent years is there's been a number of projects which haven't got to the delivery stage as quickly as they need to. My focus is on getting those projects delivered. That's my focus. And so the Nelson Hospital rebuild is one of those which we've allocated the funding for. And the expectation for Health New Zealand is to get on with delivery. The interim
I thought he was about surgery, it's not
ensure that
strategy.
there is increased capacity sooner because there are real challenges at that hospital now, and we need to address those. And that's why it's been identified for that investment. But look, I'd also just point to the legislation changes that we did announce on the weekend. Currently, health infrastructure is not one of the areas that Health New Zealand is required to focus on. And so we're requiring health infrastructure, and we're going to be putting that into the legislation as an area which actually does require further attention, and putting in place a health infrastructure committee with experts who can help ensure that health infrastructure projects across the country are able to be delivered on time and with budget.
Point of order, Mr. Chair. I do want to make sure I get to my set of primaries and it's not interrupted by SUP. So I'll forego my SUP on this, provided I get the primary question.
Okay,
Well, my primary
we've got
too.
Carlos and Jenny in front of you.
Mine's very short.
I will
I'm happy
also-
to stay 15 more minutes as well.
Happy to stay 15 more minutes. There you go.
We've got time. There you go.
Mr. Chair,
Now, have you noticed?
How about you try staying the full 90 minutes?
Yeah.
I mean,
have
we're
you
paying as
noticed,
taxpayers. Go sit there. Just sit there. You know, we're paying for it. Sit there.
Yeah. Did you notice that Karen McAnulty regenerated into Ingrid Leary?
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah. And the reason why I say that is because the name on the table is still Karen.
Yeah, he was speaking too much sense. They sent him off to the gulag.
Well, Ingrid's the actual member of the committee. Karen would have been subbing for Ingrid.
Yes. He channeled his inner Ingrid and thus she appeared.
Imagine that being cropped out of there, of the, you know, the one of the inner Ingrid appeared or something, that Karen can sit there and, you know, put some fancy video out there or something.
Oh, God. Yeah, I so wish that I went over the transcript for this before doing tonight's show, because then I could have gotten a lot more accurate with data and stuff. But, you know, hey, doing shit live is kind of fun.
Yeah. Let's see how he continues.
Was my sub now, Mr. Chair?
that doesn't eat into
the Minister for Mental Health's time, does it?
Yeah.
We're going to have to be careful there because we will have that. We can probably do 10.
Yeah, happy to stay in 10 minutes.
And then,
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so there's been this government's doing a lot of investment into infrastructure, getting new hospital beds. But what are we doing to make sure that the historic issue that's happened in New Zealand, where we have depreciated assets, the book value is quite low compared to the replacement value? What sort of thinking have you got to make sure that that trend that's happened in New Zealand across multiple public assets, including health, doesn't continue into the future?
Well, that's a really good question. And the asset management across the health estate has been a challenge for some decades. This is a problem which I believe has developed over multiple governments. And it is a challenge that we need to address.
Multiple.
Health New Zealand, I think, released a couple of months ago the National Asset Management
Doesn't sound like
scheme
Labour's fault.
Policy around how they are proposing to manage the health infrastructure and manage the asset remediation. But that is certainly a focus of the health infrastructure plan, is around remediation of hospitals and making sure that they are fit for purpose. And there's a number of major projects which the next tranche will be focused on, such as Tauranga, Hawke's Bay, Palmerston North, because there are a large number, particularly those regional hospitals, which do require significant investment. And that's why we put in place the health infrastructure plan, so that there's a clarity around what needs to be delivered by when, so we're able to actually make that investment and get that delivery done.
Supplementary, Beryl.
Treasury estimates $2.3 billion needs to be spent on infrastructure every year in order to deliver the contents of your own infrastructure plan. You've only committed to $1 billion in this budget. You're not even following the outlines of your own plan.
Yeah, so the infrastructure that we allocated is what we've allocated in terms of capital. The Health New Zealand Board also has a capital plan funded through depreciation, and so they fund a large amount of infrastructure investment through their depreciation fund as well.
Will that meet the $2.3 billion?
Well, ultimately, Health New Zealand's going through the process of finalising their budgets at this stage, but ultimately that both of those numbers will deliver the total capital that is required. But as I said, this is not a problem that has developed, and the health infrastructure, the state of our health infrastructure is a problem that will take time to fix. It has developed over multiple decades. It is going to require multiple decades of investment to ensure that we are able to deliver that modern infrastructure that is needed for New Zealanders, for patients and the healthcare workforce.
And one more sub, if I may, Mr. Chair. Nelson Hospital, no additional theatres for Nelson Hospital. And over 15 years, you're anticipating that 15% of people who would need hospitalisations currently can be cared for in the community. Those seem like pretty heroic assumptions. What makes you confident that you're delivering a fit-for-purpose hospital for Nelson?
Well, I mean, firstly, the rescoping exercise started when you were the minister, back in, I think it was May 2023, based on and then updated modelling. Health New Zealand provides estimates. They do that on a regular basis. The issue here is they have a bed capacity challenge.
No one's getting operations at Nelson Hospital. That
because
is
they
the
don't have
problem.
enough beds. They cancel lists because there aren't enough beds for patients to go to post-operation. And so more beds means more operations, so that we're able to actually get on top of those wait lists. And in the short term, the interim bed capacity that we're providing, and also significantly increasing the number of patients that will be outsourced in Nelson.
What evidence do you have 15% of people who currently need to be in the hospital can be cared for in the community? Or is this just another magical efficiency that you dream up?
Well, I think when you were the minister, you talked about needing to deliver more through primary care and more care in the community. That was certainly one of the priorities that you focused on, and it's a focus area that I continue to have, is actually we do need to make sure that where care can be delivered in the community, we should be supporting different models of care to allow for that.
I've also run a hospital in the home service, and I know who can be discharged into them, and I'm not saying
those are all
how
clinical
large
decisions.
amounts of older people can be discharged.
And those are clinical decisions which get made by clinicians.
All right, we'll go to Carlos for primary. We've got about just over 50.
Yeah, so he's talking about more beds equal more surgeries, and yet when I look at the cuts that are done to Dunedin Hospital, we're looking at cuts to the maternity ward from 23 to 22, cuts to mental health for older people, service beds from 21 to 8, cuts to rehabilitation ward beds from 40 to 16, cuts to intensive care and HDU surgical ward from 40 beds to 20. Make that make sense, Simeon? And also we've got no new stuff for Nelson, and we've got a growing population in the South Island.
Yeah, it's growing faster in the north.
Yeah, it's just none of this shit adds up. Like, okay, you've got some people go, Labor started the cuts. Cool, okay, call out Labor when they do it. Call out everyone when they do it. If National is doing it, call them the fuck out. It's not adequate enough.
Yeah. So let's see what the likely to be 1-2 MP from Mount Roskill, Carlos Chin.
15 minutes left. Got two government primaries. I'd ask that you try and keep them fairly short and concise because I want to get to ISHIP primary as well.
Oh, Minister, it's good to see all this data being published on a national newspaper rather than just on the social media. So my question is based on the data here, talk about those childhood immunization program. So obviously, in which area you want to see this the data, or which area you want to see improvement?
Yeah, so Health New Zealand has published not only the 5 health targets nationally and by district, but they've also published the primary healthcare organisation's performance against the immunisation target. I think that's really helpful to have that information in the public arena. I think around 90% of immunisations are delivered by general practice, and so by and a significant amount of funding goes towards primary practice to ensure that they are able to deliver that service. And so I think it's helpful to understand how are our primary healthcare organisations delivering. The table that they've published, I think, highlights there are many which are doing very well. There are many which require improvement. And that is one of the areas which is being discussed as part of the PSAP negotiations around how can we further support primary healthcare to deliver our vaccination targets, because they play such an important role. I said 90% of vaccinations, childhood immunisations, delivered by primary care. How can we support primary care to deliver more? How can we incentivise them and provide that support so that we can actually reach that target?
So what other additional resources or support is available to support the immunization program, especially to cover some of the community that's hard to reach?
Look, there's a range of different areas which the government invests in. Last week, we announced the extension of the Immunising Our Tamariki program, which was launched by my predecessor, the Honourable Dr. Shane Ritty, and that has immunised tens of thousands of children, or maybe it's tens of thousands of immunisations, being delivered. That has made a huge difference to support that target, and that targets particularly those communities where they are harder to reach. But at the end of the day, we need to focus both on primary care, because that is where 90% of immunisations are delivered. We also need to have other programs which focus on those communities which are harder to reach, and that's where the need is, and that's why we invest both in primary care and in other initiatives.
And I want to ask this, additional program targeting the Maori health provider to increase the immunization rate as well. Do you think how this program in long term can increase the health outcome for our Maori community, or how to shorten their 7 to 8 lifespan?
Well, we all know that immunisation is about prevention, right? So it's about preventing a range of diseases.
Oh, now we care about prevention.
Outcomes. And it is starting with those children.
Now we care about strategy.
Plays such a critical role.
Yes,
in terms of the
strategy.
prevention and those better health outcomes right from the start. And so it is an area that we need to focus significantly on. The childhood immunisation
I get
rates
it now.
for Māori is
You can only do
significantly below
strategies
the
or
average.
surgeries one at a time.
And that is where programs such as immunising our tamariki, focusing on the need, is really important, as well as the conversation currently underway through PSAP around how can we incentivise and support primary care to deliver more. Really important to that.
Thank you. I'll go to Jenny and then we'll go back to the office.
Yeah,
So strategies.
Yeah, it makes sense now. He's got an on-off switch, right? So he turns the surgery button on when he's talking about surgery, and he turns it off when he wants to talk about strategy, right? Bop, bop, bop. The problem with Shane Ritty is that he had both buttons on at the same time. That's why he was kicked.
But maybe that's how what's it called? He suspects being gay versus straight works. Gay on, gay off, gay on, gay off.
Abortion on, abortion off, abortion on, abortion off. Yeah, yeah. I'm getting an idea. I'm getting a portfolio. I'm getting a profile of how his brain works now.
He's a binary person.
Yeah, he's got an on-off switch.
So should we get to more?
Yeah, let's go.
We're dragging our feet.
Thank you very much. I just want to talk about our young people that go in and have a lofty goal of becoming a doctor or a nurse or working in that sector. Just for a moment, focus on that. Currently, I think around 300 odd students in Otago, 34 are in the rural program. What else could be done to ensure we have students who, when they graduate, go into our rural into our regions, so that we don't have a concentration as we tend to have had in the past going to bright lights of the big cities, so that we have a greater spread of those young people going out to the regions. What programs or funding or supports are you looking at? That's the first part of my question.
Well, I'll ask you to keep it quite tight because I want to get back over.
It's literally one question with 2 bits to it.
Yeah, no, good
and the second
question.
part of that is we hear a headline that when our students graduate, that they're heading off overseas. So if I could just have some detail around those international students, the Australian students that we train become doctors in New Zealand, are they the ones that are heading overseas or going home to Australia? Do they influence those numbers at all?
Look, I think so. Thank you for your question. I mean, firstly, we need to train more doctors. That's really important. Acknowledge, so last year we increased the number by 50 based on funding the previous government allocated in budget 23.
Oh.
We then increased it by 25 this year and increased it by another 25 next year. Meaning over the course of this government, 100 more doctor training places in our universities each and every year, and so that is incredibly important to provide more access. The point you're making around making sure that we are focusing on our rural communities is really important. And a big part of that is supporting doctors into primary care pathways. And that's where the focus of the NZ-REX pathway is important. The 50 domestic graduate doctors into primary care and supporting those pathways will play a role in helping to address that challenge. We also need to make sure that we are incentivising nurses to work in those rural communities. That's where the 400 graduate nurses annual support payment to primary care who take on graduate nurses annually for 5 years. It'll be a $15,000 payment if they're in an urban environment, $20,000 payment if they're in a rural environment. And so that's got to focus on rural communities as well. So a number of things we need to do, and we continue to work with Health New Zealand continues to work with general practice around how we can support those training pathways. Again, I bring back to the $95 million uplift for primary care, which is being going through the PSAP negotiations at the moment, by making sure that we are supporting financially primary care. We'll also support primary care to be able to then open up and create more jobs in those parts of the country as well, which is really important, and make sure that those jobs are attractive for doctors to go and work in.
Thank you. Aisha Primary.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In February, Treasury advised that to achieve Health New Zealand's intended deficit of $200 million at the end of the financial year 25-26, they would need to cut nearly twice as much as was sought for the preceding financial year. Given cuts of that scale, do you admit you can't meet budget without cuts to frontline services?
There will be an investment increase in budget 2025, which will flow through to increased delivery within the budget, and we're very focused on delivering within budget. I'm happy to ask Pamela Balkett to speak to this, Head of the Health Insurance Unit.
Thank you, Minister. Through you, Mr. Chair. So Health New Zealand's forecast to run a $200 million deficit next year. So it will deliver more services than it's receiving revenue for. The Treasury advice was from before we've been able to understand the Crown entity's financial performance, and it has considerably improved since then.
What is the value of the cuts required in the coming financial year to be able to achieve the $200 million deficit figure?
In the coming financial year?
In the one that we're discussing.
Yeah, so Health New Zealand is running a $200 million deficit, and the government will fund that deficit.
I understand that. Health New Zealand has run a savings or cuts or reprioritisation program, and will need to do so in order to meet that budget. What is the value of that program?
Supplementary.
I want to give the most.
Mr. Chair,
to the opposition.
the answer to the question is Health New Zealand will run a $200 million deficit,
Right.
and the government will fund that deficit.
This is Parliament. You're meant to be able to be accountable to Parliament for public money. This is an outrage that you're not saying how much you're going to cut from the health system.
There will not be, we are investing more than we invested in this financial year, and we will be investing in more services to deliver for New Zealanders. That is what we're delivering. And the question you're asking has been answered. There will be the Health New Zealand has a deficit track. It will be delivering within that. And my expectation is it delivers on the 5 health targets for New Zealanders and delivers those services within its budget.
Supplementary. When Treasury estimated that $1.37 billion was required for cost pressures in the health system in the financial year 25, pay equity contingencies sat outside the health system. Now the government requires 13 pay equity claims to be settled from within health baselines. Why didn't you increase the $1.3 billion figure so that you can pay those pay equity payments?
Well, as we've said on multiple occasions, pay equity is here to stay. It's law, and there is a contingency which has been set aside within, I think the Minister of Finance has said this on multiple occasions, there's a contingency that's been set aside for public sector pay equity claims, and that will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis.
There's not one more dollar for underpaid women in the health budget.
We have, as I said, the government has set aside a contingency for public sector pay equity claims. The Minister of Finance has said that.
2 more,
and
Mr. Chair.
it's exactly as it was before. There was a contingency set aside. There remains a contingency set aside.
Got one from Carlos, and then
Please, I got a
2 more and then
supplementary
I'm done.
question. So, Minister, if we don't actually prioritize our spending or adjust the financial deficits, in your point of view, what's happened to our healthcare system?
Well, we're very focused on delivering within the budget. That's the focus that we have. Is we have a budget and we will deliver within that budget. And I note that the former
The focus
Minister
is
of Health,
they'll
Dr. Asia
deliver.
Burrell, sent a very similar letter to the then chair of Health New Zealand, requiring them to deliver within the budget. So that is nothing new.
Oh, they're
It is
going to
the approach that
deliver
we're
in the
taking, but I
budget.
am bringing a very strong emphasis on the word deliver because patients expect delivery, and I'm very focused on delivering.
Thank you. Back to Dr. Merrill for your first part, and then for the rest of the question.
They're focusing on delivering, guys.
I mean, the problem is, like, don't we expect the beneficiary who we're not giving the money for petrol to get to the appointment to deliver themselves to the appointment?
Have I
We're not going
emphasized
to
the word
provide
deliver?
funding for them to have petrol to turn up to their mandatory seminars that we're going to sanction if they don't turn up. We just expect them to turn up and deliver the results of turning up.
He's so cute when he's trying.
Oh boy, yeah, that rule. Oh man, I was Jenny Marcroft again, asking another really good question. I thought the nurses were going to get that 50K. Turns out they're not. The business that they're working for is going to get the 50K.
Yeah,
Oh,
you know what
shit.
now?
They don't even get the money to go work in a rural community.
You know what's the worst thing is going to be if he doesn't deliver and they go over budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, they're going to say, yeah, we haven't got
Considering
enough
that was
money
his
to-
one goal.
we're in deficit and we haven't got enough revenue coming in. It's like, okay.
Oh, we are
So
so
we're going to
fucked.
go into deficit and the government's going to top us up.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we'll just train more doctors. Okay, where we're going to put the doctors? Oh, no, we're making all these cuts, to things like ACC and stuff. They'll have to go into private care. Oh, great. Yeah, okay. Very cool. If they go into private care, the business gets, I don't know, 50K per nurse. Fucking hell. So you're not even rewarding the people for going into care. You're just rewarding the business owners.
Yeah. Well, isn't that like what was it called? Didn't they during the COVID years? They didn't want the strings attached that you had to actually not sack the staff members to get the wage subsidy.
I'd have to look deeper into that, but
yeah. But National were not actually keen on that particular clause being in there, and they weren't exactly keen about the database.
yeah, I mean, the other question that Jenny also asked, which was a good question, is do international students stay here or do they go home? Did he even answer that question?
Historically speaking, if they were doctors, they typically did end up staying because they ended up with their qualifications in New Zealand. As you probably remember from Sunday night's show that we talked about was the surgeon that I think you and I both had at different points, Beryl, from Korea, trained at Otago and later on at Hut.
Yep.
I doubt that she's going to go back to South Korea. I'm very certain she's staying in New Zealand. Might go to Australia, but, isn't going back to South Korea.
Because, one of my friends is from Russia. He is a doctor. He's a radiologist. He can't get work here in New Zealand. So he's planning on going to Australia.
Yeah, but they're training more doctors.
Yeah, but they're training more doctors. Okay. Yeah, never mind the doctor that's just come over from Russia who's already qualified for the job. Can't have him.
Yeah.
And he requalified. He got a different qualification here in New Zealand. So he got more qualifications, still can't get a job.
Yeah. Or like my friend Marion Layton, who used to sit there and fill in for Gary at was it Whangarei, now can't fill in for work in New Zealand, so she's off to Australia for 6 months a year.
Yep. That's what cuts do for you.
Yeah.
If they fund the private sector, it will fund jobs. It will create jobs. Everyone knows that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's historically always been the case.
Exactly.
We just give the rich people more money. That always
They don't
works.
sink it into things like lobbying and paying nationals so they can keep their money.
Yeah,
They
they
don't
don't spend their time advocating for lesser environmental protections or less workers' rights.
No.
We love it.
No, they put that into jobs. Yeah, everyone knows.
And that's why when you sit down there and you lower prices, have bigger profits, you put that into staff even that profit comes after expenses in the profit and loss statement.
Yeah, every business owner I've ever met goes, I can't wait to hire more staff and pay more staff. It's just like, it's an itch they're ready to scratch. They love it.
Okay, let's see more from Simeon.
You foreshadowed in a cabinet paper in March this year the need for a capital injection if Health New Zealand can't make cuts. So why won't you admit it here that this budget is unrealistic for maintaining service delivery?
I'll ask Jaime Ora Balka to answer that.
So, Mr. Chair, analysis was done with the Treasury to agree a cash position for Health New Zealand, and that position has been agreed. Health New Zealand has a deficit track per head of 200 million. If that deficit track was changed to zero, well, they'd need another $200 million. But the deficit track
This
is a
guy,
deficit
the
track,
expert
and the
that couldn't even
government will
answer a
find
question.
equity support if needed to cover that.
Yeah, it's $900 million less than where this year ends.
$1.37 billion uplift in this year's budget, which we're focusing on delivery for patients, including elective boost.
Almost due by the deficit. The next supplementary is when staff at Middlemore sought a $3.6 million funding increase, what did officials prioritise? Saving lives in that emergency department or saving money to fix Health New Zealand's deficit?
Well, the advice I've received is that that request didn't go to the Health New Zealand board, but what has been delivered is a number of initiatives to provide more support to Middlemore, including opening up additional beds, putting in more clinicians into the emergency department to provide more support during winter so that we can continue to see patients and ensure they get timely, quality access to healthcare, and that's the focus.
Nowhere near what is needed
and that's
to
the
address
focus.
An unsafe department.
And that is the focus that I'm bringing as Minister of Health, is making sure that the organisation delivers for patients.
Yeah, delivery.
Thank you. We've got 2 minutes left. It's all with you, Hannah.
Thank you. Minister, I heard from a nurse in Whakatane Hospital following a comms that came from the Deputy CEO for Manuataki on the 13th of June, and she was frustrated. She shared, how can any of these health targets be met if basic resourcing needs for our community and hospital are not being met? She shared that kaimahi are burning out mentally and physically. She shared community health needs are deteriorating and more complex. She asked for more attention on rural health and resourcing, and where is the national plan to guide implementation moving forward and to enhance services? So what do we say to kaimahi who come to us that are tired, that are stressed and stretched, knowing that there is under-resourcing like in Whakatane Hospital?
Well, the answer to that question, and firstly, we are incredibly grateful for the work that is undertaken by all of our healthcare workforce across New Zealand, and we're very focused on making sure we're investing in more frontline staff. Health New Zealand had nearly 1,689 more frontline staff as at 30th of December 2024 compared to the 30th of December 2023. We are focused on investing in frontline services, frontline workforce, so that we can do more for patients and deliver more for patients. That number again is 1,689 more frontline staff as at 30th of December 2024 compared to the 30th of December 2023. We are investing in our frontline health workforce.
So, Minister, I have a frontline staff member contacting me saying shorter stays in emergency departments. How can this be achieved when they're understaffed? They're under-recruited and they're under-rostered. There's no sick leave cover available. They're working so hard and they're stretched. Then they go over to first specialist appointments. How can this be achieved when there's not enough doctors or specialist nurses compared to the amount of patients who are waiting for their first appointments? There's a large array of concerns from the front line.
And there's always a requirement to invest in more frontline staff, and I wish the previous government hadn't focused on rearranging bureaucracy and actually focused on frontline staff during their time. That's what we're focused on.
You're complaining we hired too many
Minister.
nurses.
Thank you, everyone who has joined us today. We appreciate your time.
Well, what happened to Leicester?
Where's Leicester?
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is he? Oh, you cannot have a functioning health system with just frontline staff. You need the people working behind the scenes, people doing the paperwork.
Yep.
You can't cut 30% of your IT staff and expect these shitty old systems from like the early
running Windows 95.
Yeah, to keep freaking running. Like I've interacted with some of these systems. I worked in healthcare IT. I know how bad it is.
Yep.
I worked, and this was actually private healthcare. I worked on a budget of zero. Like I was just sticking old shit together, making old laptops. Like I had to replace parts, make them come back to life. Just changing parts from all other broken laptops. There was no budget there.
When's this the same, isn't it? I've seen their kit. Holy shit!
And I was at that protest outside the Auckland Hospital, and they're all saying the same thing. We need more IT staff. We need better systems. We need more people to do administration because a lot of these doctors are now having to do a lot of their own secretary paperwork because according to Labour, it's bad cost efficiency to pay a secretary to go and do all the paperwork and fill out the spreadsheets and Word documents, even though that takes up a shit ton of time.
Yeah, I mean, why are they going to Australia? Probably because they have backroom staff over there that does a lot of this work for them.
Yeah,
For starters.
it's just ludicrously stupid, like sitting there and saying that, it's like sometimes you just need backroom staff to make shit work. Well, I can tell you this right now. It's in the ballot when we do the shows going on there. We cannot function on any less than 5 people.
Yeah.
I mean, we've managed to during a normal show tour, we cannot function on that. Now, I do know that for a by-election, Nick and I got into a situation where literally we had to rope in an audience member to be the question host.
Yep.
Yeah, that went quite well. But literally, and it was one of the weirdest shows of literally running on 2 people. Now, we turned up to the venue an hour before we were meant to turn up, to set up. Because we just didn't know what it was going to do, because we weren't able to do our normal layout to how we normally do it, because Nick had to sit down there and have one hand on a stream deck and another hand on a camera tripod and sit there and do it. It got pulled off very well. But
for a show, that's fine. We should not expect that from the medical sector.
No, exactly.
Hell no. Right? I don't want a nurse running around doing millions of paperwork while there's someone dying. Like, that's I don't want that.
I'll help you in just a second. I just got to fill out this paperwork. Hold up.
Yeah, just got to make all these phone calls, and I just got to deal with this broken computer over here, and I got to deal. Like, no, come on.
Yeah. It's like it won't print to the printer again.
Like, why? I mean, basically, what this government's asking nurses and doctors to do with all these pay cuts is, can you work more for less? No. Why would they do that? They want the same pay with the same amount of work that they're doing before. Preferably, they want better work conditions. I know that much. They want to be less on their feet and be able to take a break once in a blue moon. But they can't even do that because they're so damn overworked because the government's underfunded healthcare. Of course, they're going to go to Australia.
I believe it's on average, it's about 15% more work they're expected to do with a pay rise of 0.8%, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, and inflation of 2.5%.
But they're greedy. They want more money.
Now imagine if you told your car, hey, you've got to use 20% less fuel, but you must keep doing 100 kilometers an hour. And I want you to use the fuel of driving State Highway 59, but I want you to deliver the time savings of driving over Transmission Gully. It ain't going to happen.
No.
It ain't going to happen. I'm not sure. What's the Auckland equivalent of, what do you call it, Transmission Gully and the old Pukeru Bay Road? I was going to say, because they really have it. Once you get, was it south of Rainbow's Head, there's only State Highway 1 until you get the bottom of the Bombays.
At least Shane Hereti, as much as I disagreed with him on so many different things, at least the man acknowledged there was a damn limit. Simeon Brown has no fucking clue.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the difference between those two. That's the difference between having a doctor and a wannabe banker.
Wannabe banker. Yeah, a wannabe banker who's an anti-abortionist.
Yeah. So you know who's going to have a much more accurate understanding of how the medical sector works. Right? It's the guy who's worked as a doctor.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ironically, how ironic.
Oh my god! Like my dad, he worked as an optometrist for 30 years, right, for retiring. He's pulling his hair out. Like, he remembers the days of Ruth Richardson, right? That's how old my dad is. I found it so funny in that discussion she had with Jack Tate. Tim the taxpayer, that's literally my dad. My dad is Tim the taxpayer. Tim White's optometrist, for those that are old enough to remember, in Upper Hutt. That was his clinic down Astral Towers. Now, Tim, the taxpayer, couldn't stand fucking Ruth Richardson because all the cuts she made resulted in poorer health outcomes that my dad had to often pick up the pieces for when it came to eye care.
Yeah. Now I want to ask, was Guppy's Pharmacy around when your dad was an optometrist in Upper Hutt?
Quite possibly. I know that my grandparents ran a pharmacy out of Upper Hutt towards when he was beginning his optometry career.
Because if anyone's in Upper Hutt,
yep,
you know, Wayne Guppy is not just known as being the mayor forever. He was also known as the local pharmacist for even longer. And I think his wife is still actually running the pharmacy. I know Wayne, I think, is more committed to the mayoral job. But
but what time period? I'll be able to give you a straight answer. It's probably about 90s to 2000s here.
No, that's so the Guppy. Because he became mayor in the late 90s. I think it was late 90s, but Guppy's Pharmacy was like 20 years before that.
Yeah, no. So not contemporary to my father's time. They would have been contemporary to my grandparents' time, when they were chemists.
And I mean, Guppy's Pharmacy is still there now.
Yeah.
But no, that's Upper Hutt's current mayor.
But yeah, no, I just thought it was really funny how about Ruth Richardson. I was like, oh, yeah, we can talk all about Ruth Richardson and her cuts. And National's doing it again. They've learnt fucking nothing.
The current national government ain't the John Key national government.
No.
Yeah, that is definitely something in there. And I mean, slash and burn. And I mean, here's the thing is, 993, they were in the process of having a hung parliament on the night. And if it wasn't specials, they would have been a hung parliament. But special votes, we one
I was
vote
like
in
3
favour.
years
But
old
in order
during the election, so I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm sorry, guys. I don't understand why we're sitting here criticizing this current government. Why are we doing this? We should be criticizing Labour.
Yeah, we should be. Yeah, blame Labour.
Yeah, we should be focusing on them.
I blame Labour.
I could have a shopping list of that.
Yeah, no, I blame Labour that I went out to go get this road cone for this show, and there's no Brooke van Velden. I blame Labour for that. It's their fault.
Damn.
I did all that work. Thanks, Labour.
We did that for you, Rob.
Yeah.
Oh! Guess what's just been uploaded?
Oh no. Brooke's in the house.
Oh, we finally got Brooke. Yes! Yes, I feel justified in my road cone.
To run through my highest priority projects to address these challenges.
Yes, let's go!
The Holidays Act. This year, reforming the Holidays Act remains one of my biggest priorities, and I intend to introduce a bill later this year. We have invested time wisely to consult with technical experts, employers, and workers on an exposure draft bill. Feedback is clear that fundamental change is needed to provide the simplicity and certainty that employers and employees need. To replace the complex current arrangements, I intend to introduce an hours-based accrual model for annual leave and sick leave, and an expanded version of pay-as-you-go so that everyone can benefit from flexible working arrangements. This year, I expect to progress changes to legislation to deliver on the commitment in the ACT National Coalition Agreement to reform health and safety laws and regulations. I believe that we can keep workers safe from harm without stifling economic growth by bogging down businesses with complex or confusing rules and regulations. I hear from businesses, workers, and employers across the country that we can do better, and we will. I recently announced a suite of changes to the work health and safety system. This includes improvements to the Health and Safety at Work Act to focus the system on critical risks and cutting compliance costs for businesses, especially small, low-risk businesses. I'm also making a range of legislative and operational changes to improve business certainty and public confidence in WorkSafe. In the coming months, I intend to seek Cabinet agreement to a sector regulatory relief package to address sector-specific pain points in the system. I have also introduced an Employment Relations Amendment Bill, which aims to improve a variety of employment settings. The bill includes a gateway test to provide certainty and clarity when it is unclear whether a person is an employee or a contractor. Contractors play an important role in New Zealand's economy and society, and I believe these changes could improve conditions for some contractors, reduce risk for firms, and help ensure businesses compete on quality, price, and productivity. The bill will cut red tape at the start of employment by removing the 30-day rule. Currently, individual employment agreements must reflect the terms of an available collective agreement for the first 30 days of employment. The rule is convoluted and confusing, and the process adds another administrative cost on top of many others, and those costs are dragging down workplace productivity. Removing the 30-day rule will ensure employees and employers can be free to agree on a wider range of employment terms from day one of employment. The bill also proposes changes to simplify personal grievances. Employees who earn over $180,000 per annum will be unable to raise an unjustified dismissal personal grievance and unjustified disadvantage personal grievance where it relates to dismissal, unless unjustified dismissal protection is negotiated as part of their employment agreement. There will also be more consideration given to an employee's behaviour in the personal grievance process. Certain remedies will be restricted when the employee's behaviour has contributed to the issue and removed entirely if their behaviour amounts to serious misconduct. I also want to touch on the reforms to pay equity this government passed earlier in the year.
Oh, yes.
I acknowledge
Here we
these
go.
reforms
Here we
have
go.
been contentious, but I want to reiterate that the purpose of the reforms is to ensure that a path for addressing genuine sex-based undervaluation remains in place. Reform was needed because
just
the
made it
pay
harder.
equity regime had become untargeted and unaffordable substitute for usual wage bargaining process. Pay equity remains, equal pay remains, and no one has had their pay cut. The government has also reinstated the ability to deduct pay in response to partial strikes. This is a vital step in rebalancing the rights and consequences of industrial action. Partial strikes are industrial actions that normally involve turning up to work but refusing to partake in key parts of the job. Often it is the public who is losing out or is caught in the middle when the partial strikes occur. Intentionally causing disruption to customers or to the employer's output is not only currently a
We need more
permitted
depth.
collective bargaining tactic,
Oh.
but employers' options
Is
to
that
respond are limited.
does that happen when people go on strike?
Currently,
It
if an
affects
employee is
the
engaged in a
business.
partial
What a
strike,
shame.
their employer cannot deduct
I
their
don't-
pay
that's
unless
not
they
the
suspend the
purpose of
employee or
striking.
issue a lockout notice. I've heard of patients facing delays in receiving medical treatment due to increased wait lists, kids missing out on
We can fix
education
that
while their
problem
teachers take
by
to the street,
removing the wait
and
list.
honest,
We're gonna
hardworking New
deliver.
Zealanders left stranded
Nothing.
at
We're gonna
train
deliver
and bus
nothing.
stations as drivers and operators abandon their duties. While I recognise that employees are intended to strike, this disruption to public and customer service does need to be balanced with consequences for those who withhold their labour. Now, I know there's a lot more
must
that's in
have
our portfolio as
consequences.
well,
Praise
but I'm happy to take
economos.
questions on those topics.
Thank you, Minister. I've got a
It's a bit like the consequence now. We got to have consequences. You don't have to do anything wrong, but you're going to get consequences. You know,
Yeah, I wanna know,
consequences. 539 only available at Brand Velden's bargain house.
Yeah, Sam, I don't know how this makes sense. She's like, we need consequences, but we're also going to remove tape so more people can get hurt at work. We're removing the 30-day, what is it? 30-day thingamajig.
Something about an employment agreement to equate with a union.
Yeah, something like that. But somehow that's going to reduce the amount of people getting injured. And who needs a wait list? We can make that wait list shorter if people know they're not going to get help, right? Because then they don't apply.
Now, why the hell has this taken so long to have this footage uploaded?
I don't know, but all I know is that
because if we go into 3 minutes, we're going to lose half of our audience because they're going to be going across and see Pat and Chewy.
yeah, but the stat is pretty clear from work health and safety. You know, a vehicle is a primary cause of at least half of all work-related fatalities. That's why we've got all the fucking road cones. That's why we got this guy. Because it turns out that road cones actually do help to prevent injury. I've got another report that backs that up. You can read about it here, guys. Here you go, in the chat.
Thanks for that. Okay, now, here's a question we'd like to ask. Should we recover back with Brooke this Sunday?
Yeah. I want to.
So for all those in favour, put I in the chat. And it will take about 20 seconds to sit there and go that. And all those opposed, say no and put that in the chat.
There. I did it. I did all the eyes.
I believe the eyes have it.
The nose have it.
What?
I
and this cat over here. And my guitar too. There you go.
And every occupant in your house?
I am the spokesperson for my house. They all say I.
They all say I. And those opposed? Okay. So tomorrow we have a fun day on a show, subject to footage. Hopefully we don't get a, what do you call it, Education Workforce Committee blunder, where we don't actually have it. So tomorrow we're going to be having the Minister for Rail, Winston Peters.
Oh, I'm missing out on that one. Damn it.
No.
Oh, you can always gate crash.
I can always gate. I'm good at that. I
you love
crash
trains.
into gates.
I know. You've done more gate crashing than me this week.
Yes.
Yeah, and also then we're going to have a guy called Chris Pink. Do you know who he is?
Yes.
Some guy.
For what used to be called Helensville. He's succeeded John Key in Helensville seat.
Oh, no, he doesn't. What is he? Is he a backbencher from National? Where's he from?
No, he's a minister.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
fuck. Okay, I don't know who he is. Sorry.
He's like assistant minister or something.
No, he's Minister for Building and Construction. I think he
Oh,
might
that's
be a
right.
minister outside cabinet. He's actually
land
a very-
reform and for veterans, associate for defence and immigration.
Yeah, he's quite a switched-on, smart person.
Which party is he from?
National.
Oh, okay. Well, finally, we get a smart person from National. Good.
Well, we'll find out.
Potentially, yeah.
Potentially. Yeah. No, he is a good guy. Yeah. Okay, so join us back here for tomorrow for the Order Paper Podcast Scrutiny Week special. And make sure you also join us this Sunday, and Laura and I will decide whether we're doing a marathon show or not.
What?
We'll decide that at a later date.
Party vote.
Love you all.
Have a good evening.
All right.
Thank you for watching the Order Paper, your express ticket to the New Zealand House of Representatives. Every episode, we unravel the complex world of legislation, debate, and democracy. From bills to select committees, we've got it all covered. From our team of political commentators who will dissect and explain what's happened, so you can remain up to date on what's happened in the Aotearoa, New Zealand Parliament. To support our channel, you can become a Patreon member at patreon.com/It's in the Ballot. The Order Paper Podcast is brought to you by It's in the Ballot Productions.